Hey YouTubers, I'm finally back with an update interview on the Steinhart Nav-B Chrono 2, sort of the vintage model with the black DLC. People have been hammering me to get back to this. I made the mistake of saying, oh, I'll get back in a couple of weeks to say what my impressions are, and that couple of weeks turned into, I don't know, 60 weeks, something like that. Anyway, sorry about that, but here it is. Here I'm going to do a little bit of a follow-up and tell you my likes and dislikes about the watch. First off, it's been performing just fine, but I have to admit this is not my most worn watch. I probably wear my Seiko over the last few months, my Seiko SKX007, more than any other watch I have, and that's my least expensive automatic watch, if that gives you sort of an idea of how much I like the Seikos. So anyway, back to this watch. The watch is great. It's been keeping really good time. It keeps very good time on the winder, better time than any of my other watches, and so that's cool. I appreciate that. I did move it, as I mentioned in my other video. I said I'd probably put it on a NATO strap because the leather band that came with it was supposed to be distressed. At least I thought it was. And if you go look at the other video, you'll see that you'll see what it looked like. It's not really distressed at all, and I suppose I could distress it myself, but that kind of is beside the point. I also just kind of fell in love with NATO straps in general, so I thought this watch would look great on one. And that's what I did. So here it is on a black NATO strap. The strap is from Lume, and I got it from Lume because I really like their heavy-duty NATO straps. I mean, this nylon is incredible. So I highly recommend you consider them. They don't have much color choice because they're not really in the strap business, but the material is just so heavy. I liked it so much on my my combat watch from Lume that I got this black one just for this watch. So one of my subscribers asked how the DLC is holding up, and I'll say the DLC is holding up fabulously, but as I said at the beginning of the video, I don't really wear this watch a whole lot. When I first got it, I probably wore it 2 or 3 times a week, and I did that, I'd say, for a few months. And then I'd say over the last few months, I haven't worn it more than a couple of times every other week, let's say. But as a point of comparison, this is the only strap that's ever, I mean, this strap has only ever been on this watch, but it is showing some wear, sort of some desk diving marks. So you can tell I have worn the watch enough to wear off the DLC on the watch band's rings. There's a good shot of that one. So I would say it's holding up well, but I'm not hard on my watches, so your mileage may vary. Other observations about the watch: the lume is very good. I'll give that another go here. I just got this Phoenix TK15 at REI, so I'll use that instead of my flash gun. You can see that this thing, I'm not even turning the lights off. This thing has great lume. So that's really good. I'm happy about that. For some things that are either sort of neutral or on the downside, on my particular watch, the chronograph seconds does not line up exactly perfectly on 12 o'clock. It's just ever so slightly past the 12 o'clock mark. I know I could get that fixed by a watchmaker, but I don't want anybody cracking the watch open, and honestly, since I've been wearing it, I don't really notice. But it'd be better if it wasn't like that. The other thing, and this is a neutral thing, it's not a negative, and I don't think I mentioned the movement in my first video. It's a Valjoux 7750, and they're well known for wobbling. The rotor will get wound up, as I understand it, and will sort of start flying if you turn your wrist the right way. And I feel this all the time. You'll just feel this sort of wobble on your wrist as that rotor's going crazy. So that's, like I said, it's neutral. You could think of it like the watch letting you know that it's there. So, it's not a horrible thing. here's the rotor on the watch. Let me get this out of the way. So that'll really get spinning sometimes. I probably can't reproduce it, but it's funny. You can see it really goes there. So it'll do that at certain times, and you're not really thinking about the fact, you're not trying to cause it to happen. It just takes off sometimes, and so it can be a little, I guess, a little distracting depending on your nature. I find myself flipping it so that I can feel it, because I'm a weirdo, I guess. But all in all, the watch is very nice. It's nicely made. It looks good. I think if I were to do it again, this isn't a knock on this watch, it's more my preferences. If I were to do it again, put a watch on a NATO strap like this, a chronograph, I probably would just go for a watch with white paint. The whole vintage thing looked cool in context on the site, where they had it on a nice distressed looking band that was sort of the same color as this vintage lume. But after having put it on the black NATO, it's like, oh, it may as well just be white, because it doesn't look vintage. It looks like a new watch that just has off-white lume. So I probably would just get a regular white painted chronograph from Steinhart if I were going to do it again, given my experience with the strap and the fact that I'm not using it. So I consider sometimes selling this guy to get a Damasco, but that's just my personal taste. I probably won't bother doing it because this watch is perfectly fine. And here's the obligatory wrist shot. See if I can get it to where the lamp isn't in the way. There we go. I think it looks good on the NATO strap. Nice clean face. I think that wraps it up. If you have any questions, just go ahead and comment on the video and I'll address your questions that way. So that's it for the Steinhart Nav-B Chrono 2 Black DLC with vintage lume. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.